Okay, so today I have one of my favorite videos to film of the entire year. I'm sharing an updated version of my top 3 favorites in every category. I usually film these videos every fall, and it's just a really good way for me to kind of show you every single product I love the most in my makeup collection. And I like that it's 3 instead of 1 because it kind of gives me the option to share different products based on the way that I like to wear my makeup that day. So I'm excited to jump into it and talk about all of my favorite products. This might be a little bit of a longer video, so I'll put timestamps in the description box below. That way you can skip ahead or jump over certain categories. And for today's video, I did not split it and do like just drugstore or just high end because I really wanted to narrow it down to my top favorites in every category, regardless of price. So some of the categories are all drugstores, some are all high end, some are a combo. These are truly just my most loved, most used products. Okay, let's start with primer. So I think the product that has been in this category the longest year after year has been this one from Caliray. This is a high-end primer I truly think is worth the money. It's the So Blown Clean Blurring Primer. This is actually a little bit of a newer one because I used mine up fully, and I feel like that's saying a lot because I usually do have quite a few primers in my collection just because they all do different things. But this one is perfect because it just kind of checks all of the boxes I want when it comes to a primer. I think its best quality is the fact that it's very, very smoothing. So if you have large pores or you deal with a lot of texture or breakouts, this is just going to create a very smooth, very blurred canvas. But it's not slippery like a lot of other smoothing primers. It's not completely matte, but it definitely erases the shine on your skin, but it has a nice moisturizing feel at the same time. So this does a really great job at prepping your skin for foundation if you want that nice blurred effect. Now, if you are looking for a sticky or gripping primer, my absolute favorite is the e.l.f. Jelly Pop. This is technically a limited edition primer. They seem to bring it back every single summer. So, at this point, I do think you can probably get your hands on it. If you can't, the e.l.f. Power Grip is very, very similar, but I like this one just a little bit better because it's slightly thinner and I feel like it does give an extra glow to the skin. It's a little bit more hydrating, slightly tackier. So I just find that it actually locks my makeup into place really well. It creates a very smooth look and it's very comfortable on the skin, even though it is sticky. I do have more oily skin and I actually use this most of the summer because it just made my skin look so healthy, so glowy, but my makeup would not move. Like at the end of 12 hours, my foundation still looked incredibly smooth. It was still locked into place. So this really is such a good option if you want that sticky or gripping type of primer. Another favorite is from e.l.f. The e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer is maybe a little bit more ideal if you have oily skin or you want that smooth matte base. This one's a little bit more mattifying than the Caliray one. They both give that smooth, blurred effect. If you have large pores, it will kind of fill those in and just kind of diminish the look of them. But overall, I find that this one's slightly more mattifying. And maybe my makeup wear is just a little bit better than it does with this one, but I feel like this one feels a little bit better on the skin because it has more of that moisturizing feel. So they're both great options. This one's obviously less expensive. On days where I want like a true matte, smooth finish, I'll reach for this. And again, my makeup wears super well on top of this. Okay, so for complexion products, I actually split this into 2 categories this year. Normally, I just share my top 3 favorite foundations, but this year I wanted to also share my top 3 favorite skin tints or tinted moisturizers. That type of formula is so different than a foundation formula. I felt like they didn't really belong in the same category. So let me start with those. These are the products that I reach for on days where I want a lighter coverage, more natural look. And this year, I definitely fell in love with that type of formula more than I have in the past. So let me start with my most affordable favorite. This is something that I actually used to love years ago, and it was kind of a rediscovered favorite. I randomly picked it up during an Ulta sale, and I'm so glad I did. The ColourPop Pretty Fresh Tinted Moisturizer. I feel like this gets passed over because it doesn't have like a trendy skin tint name, and it's just named like a typical tinted moisturizer. And I wouldn't say they're always the exact same type of formula, but if you like that lighter coverage, very comfortable, very natural finish, if you like a very moisturizing feel, this is perfect. Like this is truly your skin, but just a little bit better. There's barely any coverage to it. It's definitely a true light coverage product. And if you use a sponge, you'll get almost like an undetectable type of coverage, but it is so comfortable on the skin. I feel like it does give your skin a little bit more of a smooth look. If you have dry skin, skin, I think you'll love this product. But even as someone who has oily skin, I think it's great. It does have hyaluronic acid in it, and I do feel like it kind of gives my skin that healthy, plumped up effect and a little bit of a glow. So it's really, really beautiful. Another product that truly looks like skin, but just gives your skin like that I slept all night, drank a lot of water look is this one from Typology. I tried it last summer for the first time, and I feel like this is what convinced me that sometimes lighter coverage products really are so beautiful on the skin. This is their tinted serum. So Typology is a skincare brand, but they do have a tinted line. So their products are very skincare focused. They have really high quality ingredients, but this one just adds a little bit of coverage to the skin. It does have slightly more coverage than the ColourPop Tinted Moisturizer, and I feel like this one is not quite as glowy looking on the skin. So it doesn't have a complete matte finish. Like there's definitely a little bit of a glow there, but it's very, again, skin-like. I feel like some skin tints, some tinted moisturizers are so over the top that my skin ends up looking incredibly greasy and super shiny. And again, as someone who has more oily skin, that's not typically what I love to go for. So I love this product because you can just blend it in with your fingers or a brush or a sponge, and it looks so natural, so fresh, so pretty. So this is probably my go-to out of the three because no matter what the season is, I feel like this works really well for me. The last one has the most coverage. So if you want the feel of a skin tint, but you want a little bit more coverage, maybe something that kind of resembles like a light to medium coverage foundation, the Fenty Beauty Eaze Drop Blurring Skin Tint is personally my favorite. It's so comfortable on the skin. Again, it has like that undetectable feel, which is what I love about skin tints, tinted moisturizers. They don't feel heavy. They don't look heavy. This one does dry down to more of a matte finish compared to the other two. So again, a great option for oily skin, and it really does give your skin this beautiful blurred effect. You can build this one up to get a little bit more coverage. So on days where I'm dealing with a lot of redness, but I still want something super light, a little bit more natural, I'll go in with this. I also think this is perfect to mix in with foundation. I usually do mix this with the Fenty matte foundation because that's a little bit too intense for me these days. So when I want the longevity of that Fenty foundation and the coverage, but I want something that feels a little bit better, mixing it with this product is perfect. Speaking of Fenty, that actually moves me to my foundation category. So for the past few years, I think the Fenty Pro Filter Soft Matte Foundation has made my list, but that actually got knocked off my list this year, and it's been replaced by the other Fenty foundation, the Soft Lit Naturally Luminous Longwear Foundation. I have the shade 150. This is my favorite foundation that's kind of marketed as a luminous or glowy or hydrating foundation. A lot of them are just a little bit too much for my skin, and I do love a little bit of a glowy look, but usually when it comes to glowy products, I kind of rely on like my primer to do that for me, or maybe my cheek products like creams and liquids, not as much foundation. I usually like more of a satin or matte foundation just because I find that it wears better on my skin. But this looks so healthy on the skin. It is so gorgeous. It does definitely have a luminous or hydrated feel and look to the skin, but it actually wears really, really well throughout the day. It does not look heavy, but it still has amazing coverage. It blends out so beautifully. I feel like in general, I get more of a medium coverage look with this, but I feel like I can build it up just a little bit if that's something I want to do. But I do think this looks best when I really just like buff it into the skin and allow a little bit of my skin to show through the foundation. It is so gorgeous, so stunning. Now there are days where I want a true matte finish, and this is probably the foundation that I've loved the longest in my entire makeup collection. It's the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation. This definitely has a true matte finish, but it's very thin, very light on the skin. It looks very, very smooth. It has amazing coverage. So when I want the most long-wearing, full coverage, smooth matte foundation, this is what I reach for. I love this because it really doesn't look heavy on the skin no matter how much I build it up, and you don't actually have to go in and really build it up a ton because it does have really good coverage just from the initial application. But you can also sheer it out to look a little bit lighter on the skin, and when you press it into the skin, whether you're using a brush or a sponge, it really does become like a second skin, and it's not heavy at all. Absolutely gorgeous and really, really affordable. Catrice also makes my other favorite. This This is my all-time favorite foundation, like the one that I would keep if I had to get rid of everything, the Catrice True Skin. I know I've been talking about it for years, so I won't spend too much time on it, but this just looks really good. It definitely doesn't look quite as skin-like as the Fenty foundation, but it has a little bit more coverage. I feel like it wears longer throughout the day, and it's not quite as matte as the other Catrice foundation. They do market it as a hydrating foundation. It has hyaluronic acid in it, but I definitely think it dries down to look more satin, almost leaning matte. And I've said this before in quite a few videos, but it's very easily manipulated. So if you use a very hydrating, very glowy base underneath, it definitely looks a lot more glowy on the skin. And if you use a super matte base underneath, you'll get more of that true matte finish. That's kind of the case with a lot of foundations, but not all. And honestly, it's just kind of nice to have a formula in my collection that I can wear any day, no matter how I'm feeling. Because if I want like more of a lighter coverage look, I'll just take like a quarter of a pump and really work it into my skin. And it wears super well throughout the day, but I still have that lighter coverage look, or you can build it up. So these are my absolute favorites out of everything. I don't think my concealer choices will come as a surprise to you if you watch my videos regularly, because I have talked about these concealers so much on my channel for at least the past year, maybe even a little bit longer than that at this point. So I'll just kind of run through these a little bit quickly, but these are my top 3 favorite without a doubt. And I'm not sure that I can really even rank them because I like them all pretty much equally. So the Natasha Denona Hyglam Concealer is probably the one that has the most coverage. It's also the thickest in texture. This probably was my top favorite at one point, but I feel like these days I do like something just a little bit thinner. This one probably has the most coverage. So if you have very dark under eye circles, a lot of discoloration, a lot of redness, you just feel like you could use that extra coverage, this is really perfect for under the eyes or to spot conceal. I deal with a lot of scarring, and if I don't want to go in with a lot of foundation, maybe I just want to use a skin tint that day, but I feel like I need a little something extra on certain areas, this is perfect because it just covers them up with the smallest amount. It's very long wearing, but it also has this nice creamy texture to it, so it blends out so easily. You can just tap it in with your finger. I typically do use a brush just because that's my preferred method when I'm applying concealer, but it's very easy to work with. A little bit goes such a long way. So it's not the type of formula that I feel like I fly through, and one tube of it does last pretty well, although I have repurchased this a few times because I use it so much. I feel like my most used concealer right now is probably this one from Tower 28. I've been using it all summer, but it's been a favorite ever since they launched it. I always want to call it their serum concealer because that's what it says on the sticker, but on Sephora's website, they call it like the swipe all over concealer. Either way, it's a very beautiful, very thin formula. It's super comfortable. And again, because I tend to wear like foundation most days, I feel like a little bit of a thinner texture when it comes to concealer is really nice because then it doesn't feel like I'm wearing a heavy concealer on top of a heavy foundation. This blends out super easily. Again, a tiny bit goes a long way. I have it in the shade DTLA, which is like my perfect shade match, and I feel like it still adds a little bit of brightness under the eyes. Really gorgeous, very hydrating, very thin, very blendable, but again, it still stays in place really well. The coverage isn't as high as Natasha Denona, but it's still pretty good, and you could layer it up if that's something you want to do. The Catrice True Skin is amazing. I honestly can't believe this isn't like 3 or 4 times the price. I film a lot of videos on like drugstore makeup I think is better than high-end. This truly fits that category every single time. I don't mention it every single time because I try not to be too repetitive, but this really does feel like a luxury formula that you can get for a drugstore price point. It's incredibly hydrating, but it still has amazing coverage. It's very thin. The texture is somewhat similar to Tower 28, but there's something about this one that looks even more smooth under the eyes. Like it doesn't settle into fine lines as easily as some of the other formulas out there. It is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know what they did to this formula, but it has to be one of the most beautiful formulas out there. And again, it's like $6 or $7. So if you like more full coverage concealers that have a thin serum-y texture that are also very hydrating and last well, this is absolutely perfect. Okay, so for powder, my #1 favorite, the one that I chose the fastest, is the Huda Beauty powder. I have a little bit in the cap right here that I'm just leaving because I might need to powder halfway through this video depending on how long I'm filming. But this is the most perfect loose powder if you want your makeup to be locked in all day long. It definitely has a true matte finish. finish. And I will say this one can look a little bit cakey if you go in with too much. It's meant to be, or I guess they kind of market it as like an actual baking powder. I don't typically do the baking method when it comes to my makeup, which is where you like load a lot of powder on your face and let it set and then dust it off. But I do feel like if you do that with this product, in my opinion, it can look a little bit heavy, but as an actual setting powder, it is perfect because it locks my makeup in so well. Usually I'll use like one of those velour triangular puffs to set my under eye concealer, and then like a big fluffy brush to set the rest of my face. And it mattifies my skin, it blurs everything together, and my makeup does not move all day long. I honestly had a little bit of a hard time narrowing it down for like my top 3 powders, but this is like the category I like actually had to sit and think about. But I have to say, this is one that's been in my collection for a long time that doesn't really ever seem to let me down. This is the wrong shade. I have the shade 4 somewhere. This is the shade 6, which is a little bit dark for me, but it's the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Pressed Face Powder. I love this powder because, again, you do get a smooth matte finish, so it locks your makeup into place really well, but it also provides just a little bit of coverage. So it's perfect for me on days where I feel like I want just a little something extra. Maybe my foundation didn't do what I wanted it to. Maybe I wanted to use a lighter coverage foundation and then go in with a powder that has a little bit of coverage. That's when this product really comes in handy. I also love the Essence 16-Hour Cover and Last Powder Foundation. I love this as an actual powder foundation because it has this very smooth look. It doesn't look cakey or powdery or heavy like other formulas can tend to look on the skin, but I also just like it as an actual setting powder because it is so smoothing. It looks absolutely stunning on the skin. And as someone who deals with a lot of texture, a lot of breakouts, sometimes other powders, even my favorite Huda Beauty powder, can kind of enhance those areas, whereas this product just kind of blurs over everything. So Huda Beauty is number 1, this is probably number 2, and then ColourPop's number 3, and that can be switched out. Sometimes it'll be NYX or Flower Beauty or Charlotte Tilbury, but right now these are probably my top 3 favorites. I just realized I didn't actually pull out my favorite setting sprays, but I'm still going to quickly go through them because setting spray has been a staple part of my makeup routine this year. So my top 3 favorites, in no particular order, the LYS Beauty Setting Spray. This is such a good option if you want a setting spray that is incredibly lightweight, like something that's not going to feel like your hair spraying your makeup into place. It has the finest mist on any setting spray I've ever tried, and it does lock my makeup into place, but it's more of a gentle formula compared to others. It's not quite as heavy duty as the other 2 that I'm going to mention, so I feel like that's actually a really good setting spray for day to day because it does extend the wear of your makeup, but maybe not in such an extreme way compared to the other ones. If you want your makeup locked in, like if you do not want your makeup to move, no matter how hot it is, no matter how bad you're sweating, no matter what the day brings, the One Size Setting Spray is the setting spray to try. I kind of knew this ahead of time, but I really put it to the test when I did the makeup for my cousin's wedding. And in the middle of their ceremony, it started downpouring, like torrential downpours, and they just went with it. They were kind of under some trees, people had umbrellas, but in the end, like she was absolutely soaked, as was the entire bridal party, and her makeup did not move. Like it was locked into place. Even at the end of the night, after like her reception, after dancing, she looked stunning. So I doused her face in that setting spray like after every step, and I'm telling you, that is the one if you don't want your makeup to move. Another tried and true staple is the Urban Decay All Nighter. I'm wearing that one today. That one, again, just works to lock your makeup in place really well. Not quite as well as the One Size Setting Spray, but I feel like it does a really, really good job. That one's definitely a little bit of a more intense setting spray than LYS Beauty. So I feel like that one's a great one for special occasions, if you have very oily skin, if it's very hot outside. But it's not quite like the One Size Setting Spray comes in an aerosol can. It has an intense, strong scent, and it literally feels like your hair spraying your face into place. Whereas the One Size is more of like, whereas the Urban Decay is more of like a traditional setting spray. So if you don't like the idea of the One Size, the aerosol can, like the intense spray and scent, go with Urban Decay. Okay, moving on to cheek products. Let's kick it off with bronzers. The one that has remained a favorite for the last few years is a cream bronzer from Makeup Revolution. This is the Ultra Cream Bronzer in the shade Light. I don't know if this is still sold on Ulta's website, which kind of has me thinking maybe they're discontinuing it, but it is available on Amazon. I think it's also available at Target. Again, I'll link it below. This I don't know what I'll do if they discontinue this because it truly is my absolute favorite cream formula of all time. It's just so rich, so creamy, so pigmented. So you honestly don't need a lot of product at all. I think at this point I've gone through maybe 2 of them and then I just hit pan on this one. And for me, that is a lot. Like that truly says it's a favorite because it takes forever for me to use up cheek products in general, but especially creams because I tend to use more powder than cream overall. But this really does apply flawlessly. It looks so smooth, skin-like even. But again, because it is super rich, very pigmented, you really don't need to apply a lot of it, and it stays in place all day long. This bronzer stick comes close to it. So if they do discontinue that, I'll be fine, but I do love that product so much. This one is from LYS Beauty. It's technically, I think, marketed as a contour stick. It's their No Limits cream bronzer, cream contour, whatever they call it, in the shade Hope. I feel like I actually will end up using up this product as well. This is how much I have left. That's still a good amount, honestly, because again, it's almost the same case. It pretty much is the same case. This is very rich, very pigmented. So you don't need to swipe a ton of this product in and it melts into the skin in the most flawless, beautiful way. I do like the fact that this comes in a stick. Normally, I'm not a fan of swiping the stick directly onto the skin because I feel like whether it's a bronzer or a blush, it kind of lifts my foundation and makes everything look patchy and muddy, but that doesn't happen with this one. This one is so creamy, and again, it just melts into the skin while making everything look smooth and perfected and even, and it stays in place well. As for powder bronzer, I am so happy that e.l.f. kind of relaunched their primer infused bronzer. I don't know if they ever officially took this off the website, but they slowly discontinued every single shade until there was like one left. But a few months ago, they added like 5 or 6 new shades and they didn't like relaunch their primer infused bronzers and blushes, but kind of. I feel like on their website, they've been giving a couple of the products a makeover, repackaging them, adding different shades. And this is just as good as I remember. It is so creamy, very blendable, very smooth on the skin. It is a matte bronzer, but it doesn't look patchy or muddy or dry. I'm very picky about matte bronzers. Typically, I feel like they don't look good on my skin no matter what, because this is where I deal with like the most texture in the area where I apply bronzer. So if I'm applying a matte bronzer to like powdered skin, it really can enhance that area in a very unflattering way. But this looks amazing every single time. So I definitely recommend checking it out. The packaging's pretty cheap. I already broke mine, but the product is really, really good, which is what matters most. Okay, my favorite blush formula of all time is the Patrick Ta Double Take Cream and Powder Duos. This is actually, I mean, it comes with 2 different formulas and I love them both equally. And then together they are so, so stunning. So my favorite shade or my favorite duo is Not Too Much, which is the one that I have here today. And this looks amazing. I know again that I've talked about this so much over the years, but I just find the formula very effortless to use. Both formulas melt into the skin in such a pretty way. The powder is definitely a rich powder, but if you use a larger fluffy brush, you can get more of like a natural diffused look. You can layer the cream on top to give you that glow. It never looks cakey or heavy on me. It never looks patchy. It really is such a stunning formula. My favorite liquid blush is definitely the Rare Beauty formula, specifically the shade Hope. This is one of my favorite blushes of all time. Obviously, that's why it's in today's video. This is the formula that convinced me I could actually use liquid blush and it would look good on my skin. It is long lasting. It's very blendable. It looks so smooth on the skin. It lasts really well. Like this literally checks every single box when it comes to liquid blush for me personally. It doesn't lift my foundation. It never looks patchy. It's just such a stunning formula. And these are viral for a reason. They're a bestseller for a reason. The third choice for me, again, I had a little bit of a hard time because there are so many formulas I love, but I feel like it has to be the Essence Baked Blushes. I know not everyone absolutely loves this formula, but I think it's such an easy to use formula. The other 2 formulas I talked about are a little bit more richly pigmented, and the Essence line does have lighter blushes, deeper blushes. You can get like a variety of shades, and they do vary in terms of pigment on the skin. They're not all incredibly sheer, but I do feel like they have some really good sheer topper blushes in the line. And you can use them on top of liquid blush and pair them together, or you could use them on their own if you just want like a very light sheer wash of color. And that's what I've been loving this summer. This shade specifically, Shimmery Rose, has been my favorite. This one actually has like a little bit of glitter to it. So I feel like it's the perfect like blush highlighter all in one because it adds glow to my skin, but it's also pink tone. So I feel like it adds a little bit of that blush color I'm looking for. I feel like I've had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with highlighter over the last few years. Like back in 2016, I was all about the Becca Cosmetics highlighters. I loved a super beaming, intense highlighter. I felt like it did go with the makeup looks at that time. And obviously you can wear whatever you want, no matter what type of makeup look you're wearing. But I feel like over the years, I kind of moved away from a super intense highlighter and I wanted something incredibly subtle. These days, I can definitely appreciate a very glowy cheek, but I don't want it to necessarily look like I'm wearing a stripe of highlighter on the skin. So when that's the case, when I want the glow, but I don't want like the thicker, heavier textured appearance of a powder highlighter, then I will reach for my Rare Beauty highlighters. I actually held off on these for a long time because I was like, there's no way I'm going to like them as much as everyone says I will. Like people were raving about these when they first came out. They are very, very fragile. I have broken every single one of mine. So just something to note, but these are so stunning on the skin. I've actually been wearing the shade Mesmerize all summer long. And as you can see, like it's pretty much gone, but I'm making it work. I need to repurchase this because I also use it as eyeshadow too. It just gives your skin this beautiful glass-like glow. It's a very thin, very light highlighter. Like this is probably one of the finest powders I've ever tried when it comes to highlighter. So you're not going to get like that thick, powdery looking texture on the skin, but you're going to get the most beautiful glow. I swear someone said this and I don't know who said it. It applies like a powder, but it looks like a liquid highlighter. And ever since I heard that, I'm like, yes, that is the perfect description. I think one of you said that on one of my videos. So I love these as actual highlighter on the skin, but also as eyeshadow. I wear them as eyeshadow all the time because they're so light, so quick and easy to use. I'll just apply bronzer to the crease and take like a smaller brush like this and swipe it all over the lid. And I have the most perfect, gorgeous glow. I also use them as inner corner highlights. I have, what is that one called? I honestly can never remember the name of these. It's just like the bright white pearly shade as an inner corner highlight today. So I love these. I feel like I use them every single time I do my makeup in one way or another. When I actually do want a very, very subtle highlighter, which does happen, I feel like I switch back and forth so much, I will use the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter. I swear I used to hate this product and then I liked it and then I decluttered it and now I love it. Like I have gone through so many different stages with this highlighter and I feel like at this point in my life, I can definitely appreciate the fact that it's a very subtle highlighter. It's probably the most subtle highlighter I own, but it looks very natural. And sometimes that's just what you need. You don't necessarily want a beaming highlighter. You don't want like that glass skin-like finish. You just want like a little bit of glow to the skin. Maybe you over powdered and you want to add like something back in without going in with a full-blown highlighter. That's when this product comes in handy. This is probably the newest product that I've purchased that I'm including in today's video, but it became such an instant favorite. It's from the brand Pretty Smart, which is a little bit of a newer brand at Walmart. And this is their all-in-one face palette. They have a couple of different options, but this one actually comes with 3 different glowy products. Some of them have like a matte product in there or a matte blush or a pressed powder, but I feel like this is a good in-between. If you don't want something quite as subtle as the Essence highlighter or quite as glowy as the Rare Beauty highlighter, this is a great formula to go with because it is glowy on the skin, but it's not over the top. It's just like a nice medium highlighter. This is under $10. You get 3 gorgeous colors to choose from. You can mix them together, use them alone, and the formula really is so gorgeous. My number 1 palette of all time is the Natasha Denona I Needed Nude. I'm wearing this on my eyes today. Let me see if I can remember. I have this shade right here, and then this shade as transition colors, this shade in the crease, this one in the outer corner, this one all over the lid with a little bit of this on top. And then I do have kind of like a purpley eyeliner in the waterline, which is maybe pulling out some of the purple tones in this palette. This palette doesn't look like it would pull purple on the eyes, but sometimes if I mix like this shade, and this shade, and then I take like a brow bone highlight on top, it almost looks a little bit purpley on me. I love everything about this palette. It is so gorgeous. There's something about the undertones that a lot of my other neutral or like cooler leaning palettes are missing. So many of them pull so gray on the eyes and they're just kind of underwhelming. I never feel underwhelmed by my look when I use this. And I feel like a lot of that comes down to like the shimmers and the metallics in here. That is what really sets her palettes apart for me. Her shimmer, metallic, pressed glitter, like whatever type of formula she does that's more sparkly, just looks amazing. I feel like it gives the eyes that wet looking sheen and it gives them like that smooth finish. It just kind of pulls everything together. I can't get enough of this. I love using this on days where I want a more subtle look, on days where I want a more dramatic look. Like no matter what I do, I feel like it truly just doesn't let me down. I know some people are looking at this palette and they're like, that is the most boring palette ever. But I feel like a lot of you have said this is your favorite palette of all time too. There's just something about it. I did order I Need a Warm, which I cannot wait to get. I really go back and forth. Like I love cool tones. I love warm tones. But I don't know if I Need a Warm is going to top this one for me because I truly just love it so much. We'll see. Maybe when I do this video next year, you'll see that palette in my ranking as well. Of course, I had to include my e.l.f. I Love You a Latte Quad. I use this palette almost every single day. I even used it today because typically I'll take this shade as like my brow bone highlight. If I'm just using this on its own, I'll take one of these shades as the crease color. Sometimes I'll use this shade as the liner color. Sometimes I'll use it in the outer corner. It's just like, this is such a good formula. It's a little bit powdery, but I feel like it just melts everything together in a way that other formulas can't always do. Like I love Natasha Denona's matte formula. I love Patrick Ta's matte formula, which is what I'm talking about next. But because this is just like a little bit extra powdery, it blends out perfectly every single time. It's so quick and easy to use. Okay, so at number 3, I cheated. This is like the only category I cheated with, but I feel like I truly love these palettes equally, and I couldn't really pick between them. I mean, okay, if I had to pick between them, I would choose the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2, but I wanted to talk about Major Dimension 3 and include it in today's video as well. So officially, Major Dimension 2 is in my top 3. Unofficially, Major Dimension 3 is in there as well. So here's Major Dimension 3, and then here is Major Dimension 2. I like Major Dimension 1 as well, but I feel like it's not quite as high on my list as these two. Major Dimension 2 to me is more of an interesting color story. I love the shades in here. I love the tones. When I want more of a like fun, colorful look, I'll reach for this one. But I do tend to use this one quite a bit as well because it has the most perfect neutrals. And with neutrals, it really comes down to undertone. And I feel like Patrick Ta just nailed this palette so perfectly. Again, I did my cousin's makeup for her wedding and I used this palette on her and she wanted like a very dramatic, dark kind of smoky eye. And I used the cream shadows as liner, like everything just flowed together so perfectly and blended out so perfectly. So I do feel like if you are looking for a good bridal palette, this could come in handy. I am not a makeup artist. Maybe one day in the future, I'll choose to go down that route and get certified and take classes and things like that. But I just have a huge family. Like I have a million cousins. My mom and my dad were both one of 7. So I have a million cousins and then my cousins have kids and a lot of my cousins are getting married and they have been for the last few years. So usually if they ask me to do their makeup, I will. That's why I feel like I talk sometimes about like bridal makeup or makeup I did for someone. But this really did, it was just like the perfect palette for her wedding makeup. Anyway, I also use this palette all the time, just as like a good staple everyday palette. It has gorgeous mattes in here. The matte formula is very easy to work with. And I feel like a lot of my palettes are just missing these specific tones. And this really just comes in handy. So absolutely one of my favorites for sure. Okay, let's talk eyeliner. I actually split this into 2 categories, liquid eyeliner and then pencil liner. So for liquid liner, I feel like I like these two equally. And Honestly, I don't really know if there are major differences between them, so I'll just kind of talk about them together. The first one is the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes Liquid Eyeliner, specifically in the shade Super Black. And then the other one is the One Size Point Made Bodacious Black Waterproof Liquid Eyeliner Pen. The Makeup by Mario eyeliner is probably the darkest black liner I've ever tried. I swear I said that last year about another eyeliner, but whatever one it was, I take it back because the Makeup by Mario one, wait, maybe it was the One Size one. I use these so interchangeably. Like as I was pulling out the products for today's video, I was like, in my mind, they're like the same eyeliner. They literally swatch the exact same. The felt tip eyeliner point looks the exact same. And I honestly feel like they wear the exact same on the eyes. So it just kind of comes down to if you prefer one brand over the other. I think they do both come in different shades, which is kind of nice too. But these are super dark, very dramatic, very rich. They stay in place extremely well. You can actually get a pretty sharp wing with these. And I used to be a big fan of brush tip liners, and I've kind of switched back to felt tip liners. I just think you get a little bit more control with a felt tip. Sometimes brush tips glide on a little bit too quickly for me, and then before I know it, I have like an over the top wing. Whereas with a felt tip, you can kind of like gently press it on and then lightly create the wing. And you have a little bit more control. So these are perfect if you're looking for a very rich, very dramatic, dark eyeliner that stays in place. Like this is the formula to try. These do not move. The only reason I'm recommending the other one is because there are a few characteristics that actually set it apart. This is the Tarte Double Take Awake eyeliner pen. I don't think this one is quite as long lasting as One Size or Makeup by Mario, but this is a super tiny micro eyeliner. So if you like the idea of a very small felt tip pen, if you tend to go overboard no matter what the pen or eyeliner is like, this is perfect because you can actually create like a tiny baby wing with it. This might not be the most ideal waterline shade for everyone, depending on your skin tone or what you like to go for or the look you like on your eyes. But if you want a very stark, bright, almost leaning like creamy white eyeliner with just like a little bit more yellow to it, this is perfect. I feel like it really does make your eyes look super awake. Whenever I wear this in my waterline, without a doubt, I get comments asking me what it is because it is super intense. So I do love this. I feel like it comes in handy. So for pencil liner, I usually reach for pencil liner when I want to tight line or I want to line my waterline, not as much my upper lash line. I'll usually use eyeshadow for that or liquid liner. Sometimes I'll use pencil liner, but it's not as common for me. So my favorite waterline eyeliner when I want it to last and I don't want it to move all day long is the Too Faced Killer Liner. These have actually been a favorite for a few years at this point. These are probably my three most worn shades. I have Cashmere, Pink, and then also Black. This is a little bit of like a dry feeling eyeliner. It's not quite as creamy or smooth or glidey as other eyeliners, but it doesn't move. Like it's maybe a little bit more difficult to apply to the eyes, but once it's on, it's not moving all day long. So definitely the longest lasting in my opinion. If you do want a little bit of a creamier formula that still dries down and lasts, I would recommend the Persona eyeliners. These are actually very, very long lasting and they have some really beautiful colors. I know they came out with a couple more recently, but again, these are probably my three most used. When I am using pencil liner on the upper lash line, this is what I'll use because it is creamy enough to be able to line the eyes. And then the dry down isn't so fast that you won't have time to work with it. So you can smudge it out, create a little bit more of like a messy look. And then once it dries down, again, locks into place and doesn't move. So these are probably the most user-friendly. They just don't have quite as many colorful shades. A lot of them, if not all of them, are like pretty neutral in tone. There's like blacks, browns, maybe like a plum, a bronze. And then if you're looking for a good drugstore eyeliner, my favorite is probably the Essence Stay and Play Gel Eyeliner. Again, not quite as many options, but they do have a mix between like blacks and browns and then purples and blues, a few more colorful tones. These are very rich and that's a terrible swatch, but I'm just trying to show you. They do glide on easily and they have good pigment to them. But again, once they dry down, they're locked into place and they're not going anywhere. So finishing up the eye category, I have mascaras and then I have brows, which I guess kind of falls into eyes. So my three mascara choices were very easy. Number one for me is the Tower 28 Make Waves mascara. This is probably my most repurchased mascara of all time, my most used mascara. It is my daily go-to. It does such a good job of lifting the lashes. This is what I have on today. I have very, very short lashes. My dad is Filipino. I definitely got his lashes, and I can't speak for every single Filipino out there, but for a lot of us, our eyelashes are very straight, very short. There's just not necessarily a ton to work with. I feel like a lot of mascaras just don't do much for me and don't really lift the lashes. And because I am still terrified of using an eyelash curler, I do like a mascara that will actually lift them just a little bit and lock them into place. And this does such a great job. It lifts them, it separates them, it adds a lot of volume, a lot of length. You can build it up to look really dramatic, or you can go in with a quick coat and just get like a light, very natural look. I do feel like this mascara dries out faster than other formulas I've tried, but that might be the reason why I like it from like the very beginning of opening it all the way through. I do like a good wet mascara, but sometimes mascaras can be a little bit too wet and then they're hard to build up and it takes a while for them to dry out and become more of my favorite formula. Whereas initially, once I open this one up, I'm good to go. So I do love it. I'll continue to repurchase it, and it's just my number one favorite. Another mascara that's been a favorite for years is the Milani Highly Rated Anti-Gravity Mascara. This one also looks very dramatic on the lashes. It's probably more dramatic than the Tower 28 one. This one can have a tendency to look a little bit clumpy if you layer too much, but this one really stretches the lashes. So you can get a ton of volume, a lot of length, and I just feel like in general, it's probably one of the most dramatic mascaras I have. Even though it is a wet formula, it builds really, really well, and it just makes my lashes look longer than I really thought they could, and longer than they really do with any other mascara I try. I've always enjoyed Essence mascaras, but this year I tried the Lash Without Limits Extreme Lengthening and Volume Mascara, and this one is so good at lengthening. I feel like this gives the effect the Essence Lash Princess does, the green one, the false lash effect, but it's better. This one really stretches the lashes. It makes them look so long, so dark and dramatic. It does add a lot of volume, a lot of drama to the eyes, but it doesn't, like, I don't feel like I typically get a clumpy look with this, which I don't usually get with the false lash effect either, but if I layer that one up too much, it can look slightly clumpy, whereas this one tends to separate as well. So I love all three of these for very different reasons. They're great alone, they're great combined, and they're all just really good staple formulas I've gone through and repurchased a few times at this point. Okay, so for brows, my favorite brow gel is the NYX Thick It Stick It. This is my absolute go-to because it really does make my brows look thick and full. It locks them into place. It adds color and pigment and fibers. And if you have sparse or thin brows like me, this is perfect. It also comes in a lot of great shades. NYX does a really good job with their brow products. I also love the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen. This is my go-to. These are the only two products I have on today. I use the brow gel to fill them in and kind of lift them, and then I used this to define them a little bit more. My third favorite is the Milani Weekend Brow Pen, which is kind of similar to NYX. It's a little bit softer. So on days where I don't want like such an intense defined look, I just want something a little bit more subtle, I'll reach for Milani, but they both last in the brows really, really well. Okay, we made it to the last category, lip products. This might possibly be my favorite category of makeup. I've said before, but like I've always enjoyed doing my eyeshadow, but I feel like the most exciting part for me when it comes to my makeup routine these days is choosing a lip product, just because there are so many formulas I love and it just feels good. It kind of ties everything together. So I'm excited to talk about these. So for lip gloss, I split it into two categories. I'm introducing a new one this year. I have actual lip glosses, and then I have Click Up gloss sticks. My favorite lip gloss formula of all time is from Lawless. This is the most stunning lip gloss ever. It is the Forget the Filler Lip Plumping Line Smoothing Gloss. So I'm wearing the shade Juicy Watermelon. I do have the ColourPop lip liner in the shade Cool BFF, a little bit of the Merit lipstick in Baby underneath, and then this on top. I haven't really reapplied it for probably like 40 minutes at this point. I actually don't know how long I've been filming. Maybe I applied it like halfway throughout the video. This is a longer lasting gloss because it's a little bit thicker, it's a little sticky, but that's why I love it, because it actually stays in place well. It is the smoothest, juiciest, glossiest gloss I've ever tried. It actually does make your lips look visibly smoother, visibly plumper. It's very thick, very luxurious, very plush feeling. It's incredibly hydrating. It looks really pretty, so smooth, so gorgeous. So I absolutely love these. I would literally buy that in every single shade if I wasn't, you know, trying to be somewhat conscious with my purchases. And I do have a pretty extensive collection, so I try not to get carried away and do anything like that. Okay, another one of my favorite formulas is the Milk Makeup Odyssey Lip Gloss Oil. This is a really beautiful hybrid between like a lip oil and a lip gloss. It's very shiny, very smooth. It's pretty thin and slippery, so it's not going to last as well as the Lawless gloss, but it's very comfortable to wear. If a sticky gloss is not your thing, if you like the idea of like a very slippery, very slick gloss, this is a great option. And again, this does have a very beautiful smoothing quality to it. So if your lips are really lined, or if they're dry and you want like that smooth, glossy, shiny finish, this is absolutely perfect. I love this shade. I kind of held off on buying it for a little while. This one's in the shade Voyage because it's very dark and dramatic. But again, like a little bit on top of a liner is so pretty because it just kind of cools things down and adds like a touch of color without being over the top. But again, you can see how glossy and shiny that is, and I just used like a tiny amount. I just love lip gloss. I think it is so pretty. It makes such a difference. Okay, my last favorite is this one from NYX. This is Milky Gloss formula. This formula is perfect if you want pigment. The other two that I shared kind of lean a little bit more sheer. I mean, it depends on the color you get, but overall with this line, I feel like they're pretty richly pigmented, which normally I kind of stay away from, but with this formula, it works because it just gives your lips like this gorgeous, smooth, perfect finish. There's something about this formula. I guess they're not like over the top pigmented. When I wear this, I feel like I get more of that smooth, creamy finish that you get with a gloss that has a little more pigment. Like, look how shiny these are. They have a true glass-like finish. And again, if you're looking for that smooth, even look, these are perfect. These, I guess they feel like slightly tacky compared to the Milk Makeup one, but not as sticky as Lawless. So they're going to stay in place better than like a lip oil, but they're not necessarily going to feel super tacky on the lips. These also smell really good. The scents do vary depending on which one you get. Like this one is Chocolate Shake and it has a chocolate scent, but the Ube Milkshake scent is so good. It's kind of like a fruity scent. So I love these a lot. Okay, so let's talk glossy sticks. I feel like when it comes down to it, a good glossy stick basically performs like a lip gloss, but there are some differences. Obviously, the way they apply to the lips are a little bit different because they come in more of a pen style applicator, but I usually use a gloss stick either on top of a lip liner or on top of a lipstick just to add that super glossy sheen rather than on its own. But you could totally use all three of these on their own as well. So let me start with my favorite affordable gloss stick, the ColourPop So Juicy Plumping Gloss Balms. These are incredibly beautiful. They're very wet looking, very shiny, which I feel like I probably have used to describe every single gloss I've talked about. But these really surprised me because in 2024, it felt like every single drugstore brand was launching their version of this product. And I tried NYX, I tried e.l.f, I tried Catrice, and I just honestly was kind of underwhelmed by most of them. I like the e.l.f ones, but those are a little bit more lipstick feeling than gloss. So anyway, after I tried these, I was like, that is the formula. In my opinion, this is like the closest dupe to the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips out of all of the drugstore options. They have that wet looking shine, that super glossy finish. They're really beautiful. And I love the shades that ColourPop launched. So if you're looking for a good, affordable option, I would go with these. Of course, I did choose the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips. I have a couple here. These are all the plumping version. I've said this before, I don't know that there are really any major noticeable differences between the plumping line and the original line. Now they also have a shimmery version as well, but I would basically choose it based on the color you like. The plumping line does have like a little bit of that cooling tingly feel to it, but when it comes down to it, I feel like they perform very similarly. My favorite one is Poppy. This is like a bright, fun, kind of like strawberry coral. It is really, really gorgeous on the lips. I think it's such a great option for summertime. Most of these end up looking pretty sheer on the lips. Honestly, I feel like I maybe like the ColourPop one just a little bit better. I feel like it's a little bit extra glossy compared to these. These feel a little bit thicker. So they kind of have like that true balmy moisturizing feel to them, whereas the ColourPop ones feel like an actual gloss stick. Maybe these are more similar to the Makeup by Mario ones, but they're both great options. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, go with ColourPop. If you're looking to splurge, the Hourglass Glossy Balms are really, really beautiful. I think I've either used my Ulta points for all of these or I've gotten them all on sale. I think they were available as like a 21 days of beauty product once. I don't know. I remember going into an actual Ulta store with my mom and they were on sale and I grabbed like one or two of them. And these are really pretty, very smooth, very, very glossy. I love the Hourglass tones because in general, they're a little bit more subdued. They have like a really good range of light nudes, deep nudes, berries, some reds. They look really gorgeous on the lips. Honestly, you don't need to spend the money on the Hourglass ones. I feel like ColourPop or Tarte are very beautiful too, but I do really love these. I think there's something about them that just looks extra glossy, extra smooth. Let's switch gears and talk about lipstick because I feel like I need to move away from the word glossy at least for a few minutes. So when it comes to lipstick, I have definitely gotten back into wearing more of a like traditional cream lipstick. I love a good lip gloss. I love a good lip oil, but there's just something about lipstick that looks amazing. It looks smooth. You get good color payoff. It stays in place well. So I think this is my favorite lipstick formula, the e.l.f. O-Face Satin Lipstick. Again, when we're talking about drugstore makeup that actually feels like a luxury product, that it could be sold at a luxury price point, I truly feel like this product falls into that category. These are very comfortable, incredibly creamy, very smooth. They have good pigment. They have a really nice range of shades to choose from. And even the packaging itself does feel a little bit more luxe. It has like that magnetic closure, that like soft matte feel. The actual lipstick bullet looks really nice. The actual lipstick is really high quality. It's very comfortable, very creamy. It actually lasts on the lips well. Sometimes, not as much these days, but in the past, when a drugstore brand would launch a lipstick, it would almost have a little bit of like a waxy feel or look to it. Or as you would like swipe it on the lips, it would skip a little bit. And maybe that wasn't like strictly a drugstore thing. I just think back to like when I was really getting into makeup and I would try a lipstick that was maybe like $1.99 and it wasn't the highest quality formula. It would have like a very specific feel to it. And that just isn't the case anymore. Like anytime I try a drugstore lipstick, it truly feels the same as high end in my opinion. And the e.l.f. O-Face line is definitely like the perfect example of that. These are satin lipsticks, but they definitely have like a little bit more of a creamy, moisturized look to them. If you're looking for like a true matte lipstick, I recommend the Milani line, which again, I do feel like these compete with high-end lipsticks in my mind. They're just definitely more on the matte side. So I find them a little bit longer wearing than the e.l.f. line. They definitely dry down to like that true matte finish, and they're very richly pigmented with a really good color payoff. So like the second you apply them, the color shows up on the lips, no skipping, no tugging. Even though they're matte, they don't feel dry on the lips and they don't look dry. They have a beautiful opaque finish and I love the packaging. I think it's so perfect how the like outer packaging corresponds to the color. They're really, really fun and I love using these. I think I tend to go for more drugstore launches overall when it comes to lipstick, but I do love the Too Faced lipsticks. These are incredibly creamy. They're creamier than e.l.f. They're creamier than Milani. These feel like butter on the lips, but again, they last. And I think that's the difference between a lipstick and a lip gloss for me most of the time. Like when I want my color to last, that's when I'll reach for a lipstick. These are so creamy, so gorgeous. They have like a little bit of a shiny finish, but not like a lacquered finish. They have a good weight to them, so they feel luxurious in terms of packaging. And then when you roll them up, like initially the lipstick is kind of shaped like a heart, which is cute. But I just think the actual formula is probably one of the highest quality lipstick formulas I've tried. As far as lip liner goes, my favorite formulas are affordable formulas. I don't buy a ton of high-end lip liners. I have a couple, but I do feel like that that is a category where you can truly find amazing quality at the drugstore. This is the one that I wear the most, the ColourPop Lippy Pencils. These are my 3 most used shades, BFF, Cool BFF, and then Oh Snap. These are the best because they're creamy, but they're actually long lasting. I love a good creamy lip liner. I know some people like more of a stiff formula that's maybe a little bit more difficult to apply initially, but will last really well throughout the day. I love a good creamy lip liner that actually glides on easily, but these still really last throughout the day. And I love ColourPop because they have a ton of shades to choose from. Usually during the holidays, ColourPop will do like a vault collection or a big box of lip liner pencils and eyeliner. They do it with a lot of different things, but if you purchase that or even like a set of 10, you'll have like every single color you need. And that's what I did a few years ago. And these are my 3 most used, but if I'm doing like any sort of lip look and I need a different color, I have a ColourPop lip liner for that. So definitely my #1 favorite, my most used formula for sure. Another great option if you want a creamy formula is the LA Girl Shockwave Nude Lip Liner formula. These are very creamy. They have gorgeous shades to choose from, lighter nudes, deeper nudes. They stay in place really, really well. They're maybe not quite as long lasting as ColourPop. I mean, it's very, very close, but at the end of the day, I would say ColourPop is just a little bit longer lasting, whereas LA Girl is slightly creamier. Okay, the last one I want to share with you is what I reach for if I want like a true matte lip liner. Again, very creamy because that's what I typically go for. These don't feel like you're wearing anything. They're from About Face. They're called the Matte Fix Lip Pencils. I feel like About Face is another brand that just like nails undertones with every single product they launch, but especially their lip products. They have beautiful rosy tones, great neutrals, pretty cooler tones, a ton of warmer peachy shades. And I just think that this is a very richly pigmented pencil that goes on easily, dries down, does not move. All of my lip oil favorites are either drugstore or affordable brands. My newest favorite is from ColourPop, the So Juicy Plumping Glossy Lip Oils. So I had tried the glossy plumping balms first, and then I think just a few weeks later, I tried these, and I love this formula so, so much. This, I feel like, could be described as an actual lip gloss. Honestly, that's probably the case with all 3 of these formulas. I feel like the lines between lip gloss and lip oil are so blurred at this point. And when I think of a true lip oil, I think of like a very thin, slippery, slick formula. But I almost like the more modern take on lip oil where it does have a little bit of a thicker texture that actually lasts. These are incredibly moisturizing. And again, they almost have the same longevity as like the Lawless Forget the Filler glosses, where if I'm applying these as I'm like getting out of my car and I'm going somewhere and I come back a few hours later, I still have like a little bit of color there and my lips are still very, very moisturized. They look so smooth, so shiny, so glossy, and they're just really, really beautiful on the lips. They have great colors to choose from. They do have a little bit of a bigger applicator, which is great to really push the product onto the lips. And I love them. I think they're so stunning. Overall, they do lean pretty sheer, which is kind of nice because I feel like you can wear them on their own or you can throw them on top of something else. I'm definitely a fan of the NYX Fat Oil Lip Drips. These are a little bit sticky, so just something to keep in mind if you are not a fan of a sticky formula. And I do think I've heard some people describe these as more of like a true lip gloss formula, but I've also heard people say these are very similar to like high-end alternatives out there. So I love these because they look so smooth, so shiny, very glossy. These have a little bit more color than ColourPop or really any other formula I have. So there are days where I want more of a colorful look when it comes to my lip oils. And when that's the case, I always reach for these. But again, long-lasting benefits. So moisturizing, so smooth, so shiny, really gorgeous. These are from Catrice. They're the Gloss and Glow Tinted Lip Oils. These are a little bit thicker. They definitely have like that plush, luxurious feel to them. So they just feel really good on the lips. Very cushiony, very luxurious. Like you know you're drenching your lips in a good hydrating formula when you're wearing this. And again, just like a tiny bit sticky, not as much as NYX or ColourPop, but you know they're going to actually last on the lips. My big pet peeve when it comes to a lot of thinner lip oils is they wear off way too fast, and then my lips either feel worse than when I applied them or they feel the exact same. And I definitely want there to be a difference when I use them. So the thing about this formula that's a little bit different is it's actually like a pH changing lip product. So it will adjust based on your personal pH. I mean, that's what they claim at least. But what I find interesting is these almost, I mean, it depends on which color you get. I have this hot pink one, and then I also have like a red toned one. They almost stain the lips a little bit. So they're kind of like a glossy lip oil stain. And I feel like the color left behind actually lasts even once that initial glossy layer wears off. So you can see, I mean, I have a little bit of lipstick on underneath, but this wasn't the color of it when I initially applied it. It definitely starts to develop and change. Okay, let's finish up with lip balms. My number one favorite is the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm. There's just something so fun about applying this product. It's the type of product that I want to reapply throughout the day, like over and over. But they have a bunch of different options. If you don't want like a ton of color, I would go with one of their lighter options. I think they have like a light pink one. I think they have a pistachio one. I like the brown ones, like the ones that come in the brown packaging, because those have a little bit more color. Actually, this is probably the most pigmented out of all of them. This one is cherry. I don't wear this one quite as much because it's a little bit more vibrant than I typically go for a lip balm, but they're just so beautiful, so comfortable. It is a little bit of a splurge. You don't have to buy these. You can find more affordable alternatives, but they're very pretty on the lips while also leaving your lips feeling very smooth. I also like the Tower 28 lip balms. These to me are not as fun to apply because of the applicator, and that's just like the only thing it comes down to. These have like a rounded plastic applicator, whereas the Summer Fridays ones have like this kind of like bendy, softer applicator. So they just hug the lips a little bit better. But the Tower 28 ones are a little bit more affordable. On the lips, in my opinion, they feel so similar to Summer Fridays that I don't see a big difference. And the Tower 28 ones smell really good too. And Tower 28 also has a few shades that have a little bit more color compared to Summer Fridays. So depending on what you go for, you might actually like Tower 28 better. My last favorite is something that I've loved for years, the Too Faced Hangover RX Pillow Balm Lip Treatment. This is like a liquefied lip balm. So it's something that you could apply to your lips before you do your makeup or at night before bed, and it actually leaves your lips feeling incredibly soft, super hydrated. Like you will notice a difference in the way your lips look and feel when you use this product. I guess this is maybe more so like an actual lip treatment, but in my mind, I've always thought of it as like a liquid lip balm. It's very smoothing. It leaves your lips looking so soft, and it smells really good too. To me, it kind of has like a little bit of a marshmallow scent, but they do have some different options. Some have like a hint of color. Some I think have actual glitter. I honestly just love the original one. Okay, we made it to the end. This was a long video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. I had a lot of fun sharing my top favorites. I would love to hear from you, so let me know if you guys have any top recommendations in these categories. I'll link a couple of other related videos for you on the screen, and I'll see you very soon with a new one. Bye.